until we have our own office, to put all this stuff in, once you buy a house and all.
Oh yeah, let me get right on top.
I mean,
Why don't we
you're
just
really,
reconvert
you're really
your house?
holding this podcast back by not buying a house and buying an extra room for us to put this in.
Look, I would do that, but I just thought that instead we could just put your baby up for adoption and then just take over this crib area that we're in right now and just turn this into a studio.
Honestly, the crib gives us a lot of flair.
Does it? It's so...
It really motivates me to talk about video games.
Oh, that, and when I OD on codeine from all the cough syrup I've been drinking, I have a place to crash at your place now.
I'll definitely throw you in the crib and see if you can. That way you don't roll out of bed.
That's good. That's fantastic.
Welcome to the Couch Trolls Podcast with your hosts, Dave and Das Bruce.
How you doing, man?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Been doing all right. What you been up to lately?
Dude, it's Wednesday. It's totally comic book day. I went ahead to my local shop and went and picked up some new comic books.
Is it?
Yeah, every Wednesday. I can't say I go every Wednesday, but every Wednesday new comics release, and I got a couple pulls that I pick up.
All my pulls come out like weird and everything. What are you getting pulled right now lately?
I got Batman the White Knight.
Okay.
That's where Joker's the good guy and Batman's the bad guy.
All right.
Excellent. Yeah. I got the Batman series. Got Aquaman, and I got the newest Moon Knight series.
Wait, you're following Aquaman?
The crazy thing is, some of my favorite Top Cow artists came over and started drawing Aquaman.
Okay.
And it just boosted it.
It's kind of funny because Aquaman was like the biggest joke for the longest time, and then like he started getting good.
Well, Jeff Johns with the New 52 series kind of laid the groundwork for like the first real opportunity for Aquaman to have a strong story. And I'm kind of hoping that they follow that story for the Aquaman movie. It's the best opportunity for them to be a great movie.
I don't think that the source material they're going to pull from is the like Fish Are Friends type thing going on,
It bothered me that they even made that joke in the beginning in the Justice League.
It had to be stated. Did you saw the Justice League movie?
Yeah, I just thought it was too blatantly obvious. Like, you can do it. You can deliver a joke a little bit better than that.
I mean, well, come on now, though. I mean, you saw it, so what'd you think of it?
Justice League, I liked it. It was good enough, but it wasn't great. Like, I found it entertaining, but it wasn't dark like I like my comics or my movies.
Oh, for crying out loud.
Dude, I'm still a fan of BVS. No matter what, I'm a fan of it. And the reason I like it is because I like that dark tone, and I like what they did with Batman. I like what they did with certain scenes where they took it from the Frank Miller series, the Dark Knight series. I didn't like the daydreams and the Martha stuff. The obvious stuff was still bad, but I kind of look at that movie as a whole as that's the Batman I like. I don't like the Batman that's rolling on the ground, oh, I hurt, and making stupid jokes. I just want the serious Batman all the time.
Okay, you know what? Here's where I'm throwing it in. Out of the like Snyder trilogy plus the weird offshoot of Suicide Squad. Suicide Squad ranks in dead last in my book because
it should.
Yeah. Don't let a trailer company cut together your stuff, man. Like, just plain and simple.
Yeah, dude, those trailers
the
were
trailer
excellent.
was great. Yes, no, the trailer was great. But you try to do that, like, for a whole entire movie, just does not work. Batman v Superman is bottom of the list for me. Unless you go and count the director's cut, then it ties for second out of... or ties for second.
The director's cut definitely helped it. And I feel like it answered some of the bigger questions, but it also comes with the extra length that kind of gets associated to it. But I'm all right with it.
I think that.
But Man of Steel is definitely the winner.
Man of Steel was great. I don't understand why people hate on that. I feel so much because Superman snaps a dude's neck.
Snyder put his stamp on it by doing his style and all the destruction. If anyone's read a Superman comic book, there's plenty of destruction in it.
I was completely okay with that. I thought that was a really good one. And then, the Justice League. I thoroughly enjoyed Justice League. I thought it was fun. My favorite scene is Flash and Superman throwdown.
Oh yeah,
like
with the eyes.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where they start.
I actually really like the joke that landed much later about when he saves a person or he saves the car of people, and Superman's right along next to him with the whole building of people.
Yeah,
I was like, they landed a few really solid jokes, and even the graveyard scene where they were like, "So yours was an accident too. So were the mess ups?"
Exactly.
You know, and
no.
those were like they just landed perfectly. But I don't know, like Batman.
Plus-
I hated Batman in that movie. He was like the lead, like Aqua Bro. I was kind of like whatever with because I don't think they really gave him a whole lot.
But if they given him any more, it would have been too much.
Yep.
Had they given him any less, he would have been
Irrelevant.
exactly.
Yep. So it was kind of a funky spot for him,
And-
but
Well, that's the thing. Batman's got to be, let's face it, Batman is the Iron Man of that universe. He's the dude with no powers that has to bring everyone together. So, I mean, he kind of had to do that, but at the same time, he's got to be the, Captain America of assembling the DC Avengers. So to
I know
speak.
they're still trying to find their imprint, but I don't know. Besides my comic books, I've been playing a lot of Assassin's Creed too, and so is my wife. Actually, we've been taking turns playing the crap out of that game, dude. It's so good. It started kind of like The Witcher.
That's the one that takes place in like Egypt and stuff, right?
Yeah, they pretty much abandoned everything that the Assassin's Creed series really made of itself by having simple combat and these kind of awkward stories. They kind of went all in on the Egypt stuff. They really focused on just the atmosphere of being in Egypt. And they also took a lot of tone from The Witcher by every quest is not, oh, go get 5 leopard skins. They kind of have you talk to somebody and, hey, this is why you're getting those skins. They kind of gave a little depth to every mission in the game. So it gave it a little more purpose, which I liked. And then the combat was completely redone. And now you can various swords, you have levels, you have equipment. I mean, it's full on RPG now. Assassin's Creed Origins is an RPG by every mean.
I don't know how I feel about that.
But
I'm not as big into the series as you are, though.
True. And I don't know. I feel like after coming out with like 9 games, they needed to do something to make it better or different. And I feel like they finally hit that sweet spot by recognizing that it was ripe to become an RPG.
See, me, I like familiarity. Like, if you can give me just a simple twist on like something that I've known for like, what is it? I've been playing a duck game.
The
Duck game
simplest
is
of
freaking
simple
great.
games.
Are you kidding, man? It's just like a 2D
Nidhogg,
deathmatch.
but with ducks and hats.
It's Nidhogg with guns. Yes, that is. Yes, that's a pretty good way of putting it.
The single hit kill, but it's more multi-level.
Yeah, it's got more verticality to it
Yep.
and everything. Basically, yeah, it's kind of like got the whole almost Mega Man X thing where it's like the original Mega Mans were very left and right, like clearing gaps and stuff, where Mega Man X was more verticality, climbing up walls and jumping over stuff.
And there's surprising depth, I guess, with some of the weapons. Like, it's kind of crazy, like how some of them have like the bouncing lasers, and you got the the grenades that you actually. It's a 2-step process where you have to.
You got to pull the pin and then throw it.
Yeah,
I love the Bible where you convert someone over to your team and then they're just on your side.
Oh yeah, some of those weapons you've used against me, I'm like, I didn't see that. Like even just the standard mind control.
The net gun works too, where you just net them and then throw them off the edge of the level.
I mean, even though further with your simple stuff, I mean, dude, you love Gang Beasts.
Yes, we played that. I went and I downloaded that. Actually, I think I brought over the points card, right?
Yeah, you just brought it over and downloaded
Yeah,
it.
I just downloaded it on your system while I was waiting for you to show up at your house.
I cannot believe I like that game because of its simple stupidity.
It's
Double Fine nailed it.
It's Clay Fighter, man. Well, Double Fine picked it up, I believe. I don't think it was theirs to begin with.
That makes more sense.
Published it. But yeah, no, that's been out on PC for years because I'm pretty sure we rigged up a PC at like your bachelor party.
I think you're right,
And
but
we're playing
at
that.
the time I may not have been in the right mindset to play it.
Well, I was scrolling through, I think, the Steam list on the guy's like PC that he had because we rigged up like the PC, the TV, and we had a bunch of like controllers hooked up.
The one PC gamer in the room of console gamers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of us we were focusing on Mario Maker had just come out at the time.
Well, we also had Nidhogg. We had that Nidhogg tournament.
That's right. We had a Nidhogg tournament. We had a Nidhogg tournament going. We
Halo,
had
Resident Evil.
Well, that's right. I had
Gears.
4. Yeah, I had 4 original Xboxes hooked up for Halo 2, I think. That was nuts.
Yeah, and then it's even crazier. Like, just thinking back to all those different games we play, I still feel like I go back to most of those games because those are the games that we would play together or with our friends.
Yeah.
And it was crazy because one of the games that we actually played that night was Injustice. And dude, superhero games, man, it is a solid superhero game if I've ever seen one.
Okay, here's the thing. Like the controls threw me off at first. It's made by NetherRealm, right?
Yep.
Which I think WB full owns now.
I think Warner Brother fully owns, but I'm not positive.
I'm almost 90% certain that they fully own that. But it was kind of cool because it's like they surprisingly, I mean, we were talking about fighting sticks last week, and fighting game community freaking loves that game because it's I don't know, it's unique enough from like difference from Mortal Kombat, because I mean you got Mortal Kombat, you got your Street Fighter, and then Tekken, but like that game for some reason I don't know why.
I feel like a lot of the superhero traits give it just enough uniqueness that separates it. Like the fact, like the Flash, like his speed levels are unlike any other character in any of the Mortal Kombat games.
Each superhero trait contributes to the character being unique and individual. Plus, they keep adding characters, man.
Yeah, and Injustice 2 just came out, and I mean they went all in when they decided to use both Hellboy and the Ninja Turtles.
Oh yeah,
I mean they're nailing it. And I don't know, it kind of makes me think that the superhero genre as a whole could really learn a lot from Injustice, because when Injustice first came out, that was a big deal because they had learned from their first failure, which was the DC versus Mortal Kombat, which was just
I don't even want to
a
talk
mistake
about that. That
if
was
it was
just
ever made.
awful. That goes in the pile of crap. Well, I think they weren't allowed to do fatalities to the characters, so you weren't allowed to do anything bad to,
They fell in this weird motion where
it was teen. You don't make a Mortal Kombat game rated teen, okay? Here's the thing.
They call it Shaq Fu.
Bad. That just. Oh my god. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna clear this up, and I'm gonna get us out of this pit that you've now thrown us into. I'm rolling up my sleeves right now. That's how serious I'm about this. Okay, first of all, A, don't bring Shaq Fu up into this ever. Shaq Fu is a piece of crap. B, Delphine Softwares, who made Shaq Fu, is actually a solid company because they made one of the best games out of this world. And 3, that has nothing to do with this conversation. Moving on. No, if you want to talk about fighting games, right?
Yep.
Okay, you're talking about fighting games. You're talking about DC. Do you remember the game that kind of came almost before that? There was a Super Nintendo game. There was a Justice League fighting game on there. Do you remember that?
No.
Nobody ever remembers that. It had like a whole, like there was your like Superman v Batman.
It was just 1v1 fighting?
Yeah, it was 1v1 fighting.
On
It was
Super
superhero.
Nintendo?
Yeah,
Do you
on
own
Super Nintendo. I don't actually.
Oh, well, you need to get that one.
You see me, I was more of a Marvel vs. Capcom guy if we're going to go, or X-Men Children. Okay. We're going into superhero
Oh, it's all good, man.
fighting games now. This is, dude. Okay. There's been a lot of really good, let's
go to the
so many good
beginning. I
games.
mean, really, what was the first one that you really gravitated to as far as the superhero fighting games?
Okay, well, actually, you know what? Let's not do fighting specific, because side-scrolling beat 'em ups. I mean, not exactly fighting games.
They came first, yeah.
But they came first. I would say that X-Men on Genesis was actually one of the best ones, because you could play 2-player. You had where you could select special characters, come in and like clear the screen. Like you could have Archangel come and just like shoot up the screen and everything. You'd fly across and like blast everything. But I mean, you could play as Wolverine. You could play as Cyclops. I mean, Nightcrawler.
See, you were lucky. I had the Sega, and all I had was Antimanium Rage.
No,
that's the one I had. And,
you didn't even get the original X-Men game?
My first comic book experience was the hardest superhero game I've still ever played.
Adamantium Rage is kind of a pain in the ass. But they did a whole Wolverine game, because Wolverine was hitting huge popular strides at that point in time.
He should. His comic was great.
What is it? The fun fact, speaking of old beat 'em ups, so that X-Men game, you cannot beat that on the Sega Nomad, the handheld Genesis
why not?
system, because there's no reset button. When you beat the game at the end, you're fighting a computer because you're in the danger room when it haywires,
I remember that.
and you have to hit the reset button on your console in order to get the last screen.
You're talking about the one that we played on 360, right?
No, that was the arcade game.
Oh, okay.
Although, okay, you know what? That might have been actually my first major exposure to X-Men as an arcade game. Well, I played a lot of that, and I played a lot of Children of the Atom in arcade,
Yep, and I didn't play that one until you recently picked it up, maybe like 5 years ago.
Oh, the
from the
Children of the
PlayStation
Atom
version. Yep.
But you and I played a lot of Marvel vs. Capcom.
Well, yeah, because I had my boy Iceman,
Yeah.
and I would wreck you with him. Him, Jill, and Akuma.
Was Iceman in?
And Marvel vs. Capcom. It was 2,
that
right?
was 2. That
Yeah,
would
it
have
was
been 2.
2. Yeah,
Yeah, because the
Jill was
first
in 2.
one's surprisingly not that great.
I had that one for Dreamcast, and I thought it was the coolest thing at the time. And
I think I have the first one for Dreamcast. I have the second one for Xbox, which I bought off you, if I remember correctly.
You did, because I had the
You
PS2
needed-
one.
you needed money in college.
I needed money.
I'm pretty sure that's how I get a lot of my better games is through you.
It is. And I have the friend discount for you, so I can always rent them whenever I want them for free.
I remember, I think I was on a kick of picking up superhero games for a while there. Did you ever end up playing, what was it? Hellboy Science of Evil for like 360?
No, man, to be honest, I haven't played a lot of the offbeat games. Like, when you think of like some of the other offbeat ones, like the Spawn games, like Spawn Armageddon, I vaguely remember playing that one. You have like
I completely
Hellboy.
forgot that Spawn Armageddon came out. That was original Xbox, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I even found out about it was because of a superhero in a fighting game. It's because they threw Spawn into the Xbox Soul Calibur 2 game.
Oh man, that's right. They had what is it, Hayachi for PlayStation 2, which was a terrible choice. They had, I think everyone had it for GameCube because it had Link.
Well, yeah, because he had the move where he just threw him off the ledge every time. He was so broken, but at the time without the internet, it didn't matter if he was broken.
Man, no, I still think that 2 was probably the most balanced Soul Calibur game.
Yeah, 4 was by far the worst one, but I don't know. I'm kind of glad that 2 had Spawn in it though, because again, it was able to kind of branch me out just a little bit. It's like, oh, Spawn's awesome, and it kind of like revigorated me after like years between seeing the Spawn movie, and then Spawn's out of my life, and then it comes back as Spawn the video game. And
Why haven't they put Spawn in one of the new Mortal Kombat games? I feel like that they still
Yeah,
have licensing
perfect.
rights, don't they? He'd be a good fit. I
don't
think
know.
McFarlane's expressed he's like they still own the rights. They could still put him in.
I don't know. Maybe
Who would you want to see in an Injustice? Because apparently they're just adding characters to Injustice all the time.
Dude, I want to see Injustice. I want to see Kick-Ass. Honestly, he's got the weapons like Daredevil.
Who owns the comic book rights to Kick-Ass? right
Millar
now?
World is owned by Netflix now. So,
Okay.
and Netflix,
that was
they're
Mark
going to
Millar.
openly hand those out to whoever wants to pay for them. And then, I mean, I really, you know me well enough to know that The Darkness is honestly my favorite comic book.
That had
And
a decent run of games too, didn't it?
yeah, they had 2 games, and I feel like for most people, that was actually their first exposure to The Darkness. And,
How
I mean,
many issues did that comic run for?
I own 125 issues, but I think there's probably around 200 plus issues total. And it's just, you have The Darkness, and then you have The Darkness Origins, and then there's a couple offbeat like short series of The Darkness. But really the main series was iconic for Top Cow Comics. And that game, the first one was pretty good. It kind of fell in it was kind of early on that first person shooter beat where they were starting to make narrative first person shooter games, where they were like really giving story and not just focusing on PvP play. And it did okay, but when it came out, it was like The Darkness, and then the game Prey, the first one, it didn't really hold its ground. But the second one, dude, it was cell shaded. It had co-op couch play and co-op online. It had a full on story.
Did you play as the Tentacles or could you play as a second Jackie?
Actually, they made multiple characters. You could play like Rebel or Ally type characters.
Okay, it wasn't that like half-ass thrown in where it's like, oh, here's Perfect Dark. Here's co-op mode where there's a second Joanne Dark or something.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
They did you
Or
play the
here's
game
a
Rage?
second Master Chief. Yeah, I did actually.
Remember Rage's co-op mode? How you just had they had 8 random characters and random scenarios.
Yeah.
Well, that's exactly what they did for that mode. They were like, hey, we'll just throw a bunch of random characters like
Okay, so
ally
it's not
characters.
the story mode. It's
No, it's
scenario.
like it's a scenario
Two-player
mode.
scenario. Okay.
And it was great. And then the game was great. And then I just recently beat it, and the cell shading captures it great.
Well, because you can always come back to it and everything. And I feel like a lot of the earlier fighting games, was it? Oh God, was it? Was the Carnage game?
Oh, Maximum Carnage.
Maximum Carnage
Yep.
was great to this day.
Oh man.
Plus, it has comic panels, so it kind of tells you a story as you go along too.
Yeah, and I feel like Carnage is another character that deserves a little more justice.
Carnage has been in nothing
I think he actually was DLC for Ultimate Alliance 2 that you had to pay for.
Oh, really?
He was like one of the only. It was like Juggernaut, I think Carnage, and maybe a couple other ones. But it was like, oh, let's have 100 characters and still not include Carnage. How is he getting shafted so hard?
How is he at least not an alternative skin for Venom in Marvel vs. Capcom?
Well, there's also anti-Venom. He's like a white Venom. They've not used him yet either. And I'm like, I understand that because that's super out there. But Carnage was like, he's a great villain. Maximum Carnage was one of the better Spider-Man games.
Maximum Carnage had a great soundtrack too, because was it the band Green Jelly? I think did the fucking like rock music for that.
Really? We need to play that again. I haven't played that in so long.
We can't play that together though, because remember Super Nintendo era. It was that weird bootleg where they'd make a game and then they'd dumb down the graphics slightly and make a 2-player version. So we got to play Separation Anxiety. If we want to play it together.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's past the controller.
Confusing world of Sega versus Super Nintendo games.
No, it was the same on both systems.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they had a Separation Anxiety for Genesis as well as...
So does that count as the Game of the Year edition from the 90s?
Pretty much, yeah. Anytime that they did that with so many games back then.
Speaking of like beat 'em ups, superhero games, what about Scott Pilgrim? I mean, that's got to count because it's a magnet.
Okay, all right. If we're getting into
because I mean it's coming from the source material is a book and it's coming from book to video game, so it still counts as a comic book video game.
Does it though? I mean, okay, here's where we get into the weird territory, because like, all right, we're talking about because I want to get into Spider-Man games in a minute here, because I know that's coming out and I know you're excited for it and I'm not, but I mean, where do you draw the line as far as like what technically classifies as a comic book game? Because there's source material, because Scott Pilgrim is technically a Canadian manga. I would say it's not exactly.
I would say I would agree with you.
And if you're going some sort of comic or manga to video game, then I want to bring up how. Did you ever play Vampire Hunter D for PlayStation 1?
I didn't, and I'm kind of glad I never did.
It's so weird. It's like a sword version. It's Devil May Cry light almost.
Is it really?
Because it's like a sword based gameplay, but it's that Resident Evil tank controls and enemies respawn. It's almost the enemy respawn in that game is almost nearly as bad as do you remember Evil Dead?
Yeah.
That Evil Dead. Oh.
I remember when I looked up the Vampire Hunter D stuff, it referred me to Nightmare Creatures, which was a game I hated.
Oh man, you know what? I kind of liked that at the time, but it was super linear.
I'm sure it was it's horribly dated now, but no, what I would consider a comic book game is really anything that the source material is coming from a manga or a graphic novel or coming from a comic book. I mean, those are all really great paper source materials taken out of context and put into context of a video game.
All right, I got to say then that I think my favorite comic book games of all time have got to be the Spider-Man games.
And see, for me, it's the Batman games.
Okay.
Both very iconic in their different ways, and honestly, they're the gold standard.
Okay, Batman games, you talking like original Nintendo Batman? Because I thoroughly, you looked at me weird there for a second. No, it's really good though, because that had like wall jumping, and that original NES Batman game still holds up really well today.
Dude, that shit gives me nightmares just thinking about Batman Returns. I got Batman Returns for Christmas one year. I was so excited to have a Batman game. That was one of the worst.
Was that the side-scrolling beat 'em up then?
Yeah.
Okay, because
that one was horrible.
Not nearly as bad as Batman and Robin, though. The one with...
See, Batman didn't...
No, wait, was it Batman Forever? Which one had the... It was based off the movie.
Dude, I don't know. They all kind of blend together now.
No, what was the Riddler and Two-Face?
Oh, that was Batman Forever.
Oh, gosh. Okay. No, for a minute there, I remember anytime that I bought a game... I would buy like lots of used games to go and like, oh, here's 15 used games. I can buy it for like $20 opposed to like
individually buying them. Yeah.
Yeah. Picking out stuff so I could grow my collection. And for a while there, that game kept showing up everywhere. It was haunting because that game is so bad. That game is as bad as Shaq Fu. It has almost the exact same control scheme too.
I don't know, but although Batman had kind of a rough start, for me, when I think back to Batman, I honestly really love Batman Brave and the Bold for Wii.
Dude, that was fun.
Way Forward knocked it out of the park by doing not only the side-scrolling style, but they used that goofiness to it, and they really nailed it. And even today, that's probably one of my top 5 Wii games.
Well, Brave and the Bold is based off the animated series, and the animated series intended to be campy like the Adam West Batman,
And it
but
is.
animated. And Batman's voiced by Daedric Bader.
Yep.
Was it, which everyone knows him from either Drew Carey Show or Office Space.
Yep.
Hey,
So,
Peter.
like that game is kind of like one of the earlier games I approve of because, they made them for GameCube and PlayStation, and a lot of those ones were terrible. But I feel like Batman just took longer to kind of find its prime.
I don't know. When did Arkham come out? Because Arkham, I think, is when everyone acknowledged that like Batman was legit good as a game.
And it's crazy because it was kind of the perfect storm because the Arkham series came on PlayStation 3 first, and Xbox 360, but that was also around the same time as the Nolan movies. So I feel like they were kind of in that perfect storm where both the movies were coming out with the really great movies and the games were coming out at the same time, and they're both really good, and it just exploded popularity.
Okay, but I want to point out that there's like 2 instances of not greatness that led into that, like the little side steps that no one saw. Did you ever play the Nolan Batman game?
Oh,
The Batman Begins?
No, I didn't play that.
It was not great, but it was kind of fun. Like it had potential. And then also, to bring Zack Snyder back into this, he did Watchmen. They actually did a Watchmen game.
Yep, I remember that 'cause it came with my Blu-ray.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So you had that then.
Yep.
Nice. Yeah. On the PlayStation 3 or 360 version. Yeah, they did a special edition with the game. And the game is, I think, made by Rocksteady, if I recall.
I'm not sure on that.
I think it is. And it's the same almost control scheme. Like the fighting combat.
So it's almost like a demo for
it
what was
was
to come.
so a demo. It was a tech demo, if anything. If anything, they took the tech and went, okay, what we have here that's going on, expand out.
And and that's okay. Like kind of seeing that. Even the one I played, Batman Beyond for GameCube.
For the record, I want to put something down though. Play the first part because the Watchmen game's broken up into 2 parts because of a digital. First one's good. Second one loses a hell of a lot of quality immediately.
Yeah, and I don't know. I just
But
never,
it's got co-op. Beat 'em up, man.
when you're giving away a game with a Blu-ray, it just immediately makes it feel like a garbage game.
Really?
I don't know. I never even gave it a shot. I'll eventually have to get to it.
We
but
can throw that back
I
down
don't know,
again
like
sometime.
and
own
the
it.
Arkham games were great, but now even you have your Lego Batman games; those are good. Like the first one, not good, but Lego Batman 2, and then the third one that came out, excellent games.
Really? Third one I heard was kind of jank.
No, Beyond Gotham, fantastic game.
I remember, was it Kevin Smith actually did a voice in there?
He's a Lego in it.
Is he really?
Yeah,
That's
he's got his own
fantastic.
Lego.
I remember I was out in LA at the time, and actually at one of his podcast things, and he was like, "Yeah, dude, I got to go voice Batman Lego 3. What up?"
Yep, and it's cool because it's a fun cameo that he plays in it, and that's kind of where the Lego games express the campiness of Batman best. And I think it brings it back to like the Brave and the Bold. Sometimes there's 2 Batmans. There's the ultra serious like Arkham series, but then you have the campy Batman, and both can live in their own worlds.
So that's why Lego Batman can exist in a world where
Yeah.
Arkham exists and everything. What is it? I think they're going a little more real with because. All right, let's hop over to Marvel real quick because Spider-Man
have to.
had some really good. Oh, dude, shut up, man! You shut up. Marvel, come on, dude. Spider-Man games, open world, awesome. Spider-Man 2 for the movie with the web slinging was phenomenal.
the first Spider-Man I played on PlayStation was actually Spider-Man and Tony Hawk.
Oh, the cameo for because Neversoft,
Yep.
dude.
And I mean,
Because
I don't-
Activision had the rights to Spider-Man at the time.
I
Dude,
don't-
the Spider-Man games on the original PlayStation was Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2 Enter Electrode.
yeah.
And those were fun, man.
I don't know. There was something about that
As far
time
as
in my
linear
life.
games,
Yep. At that time in my life, I was playing Final Fantasy VII or I was playing Tony Hawk 2. I really fell into like a huge Final Fantasy like hole in my life, and I missed out on a lot of those games.
but it was nice because there was a good balance between your quick, fast, arcadey fun with like the Tony Hawk series. We got to do an episode on Tony Hawk. I love Tony Hawk. I wasted countless hours on Tony Hawk.
Yeah.
But this, you had that, or you wanted your story games and everything, with your RPGs. I get that.
Yeah, it was a really good balance, especially because Tony Hawk was the one where I'd play with my friends. And just like now, I have games that I have my one single player game, and then I have that just kind of group of multiplayer games I can randomly play and not feel like I have to play it by myself.
See, and I wish you could do like the Arkham games with a friend. I feel like those games would actually kind of benefit from some sort of co-op.
Yeah,
and
it's almost weird that they never did actually go that route.
Like I said, Watchmen was 2-player. I don't see how you don't translate that over. But
and there
was
was plenty of scenes in Arkham where you had a partner in the scene with you.
See?
So I don't know. I bet you they tried it and it was just too sloppy.
Well, you could do the Rage thing with the like co-op level supplement DLC type thing.
Yeah, I don't know, but like Spider-Man, I guess the other good one, like a little bit later. I mean, I know you love the Spider-Man on PlayStation, but I think one of the ones I really liked is when they really went open world with like Ultimate Spider-Man on GameCube.
Ultimate Spider-Man was coming off of the Spider-Man movies where they open it up.
It was kind of the ultimate one was like super cartoony, and that one reminded me a lot.
It was cell shaded.
It was cell shaded, but that was where you could play like half the game as Venom. It was like where they really emphasized Venom for the first time, and they kind of gave him his own spot since the Maximum Carnage game from back in the day.
Okay, I gotta ask because it's like there's as much as there's been some really good stuff, there's also been some really bad stuff. Can we talk about how terrible the Hulk was till it got an open world game too? Because did you ever play the Hulk game for the movie?
Yeah, I played the 2004 Hulk game. It was like one of those things where I rented it. I had to because I was a huge Hulk fan as a kid because Hulk comics in the 90s were awesome. And for some reason, besides the 70s TV show, there was just nothing for me to gravitate to from the comics to video games to movies. And then they finally came out with that 2004 Hulk, and I was so utterly disappointed that I was so mad. And then I was so happy when they finally came back and brought it back only like 3 years later.
PlayStation 1, did you ever play, was it Hulk, the Pantheon Saga? That was just complete and utter garbage.
I don't, back then.
It tried to be like a side-scroll and beat 'em up where you could like move around, but then like the levels would change up, and then like the Bruce Banner stuff was just... It was so bad, man. Like I don't understand how you can't just make a Hulk game that just Hulk smash.
Well, they did.
I know eventually, and I mean that was good. But I mean, it took them a while to get there. But that's part of that whole open world thing. Like certain games just work better superhero as open world, and then it's like anytime that it's relatively open world, you can't really do multiplayer with, which kind of doesn't make sense.
I don't know. There's plenty of ways that Marvel can still move forward if they find the right company to work with. And that's why I'm actually...
Marvel Lego was good.
Marvel Lego was a blueprint of something that they've already done several times before. And what's nice about it is the only reason it doesn't get old is because it's almost like a niche genre now to have a kids game on Xbox and PlayStation. There's not a whole lot of competition for Lego. So long as they keep reskinning the different things... I keep moderately interested. I can play with my kids. I can play with my wife. And if I really want to, I can play by myself and I'm not bothered by it. But then, some of the other ones that they do that are other superhero games that they don't have multiplayer. And I think that's the next step for them is to really explore that. But
what about the Ultimate Alliance series?
Ultimate Alliance 2 was amazing. And so was
X-Men Legends.
Wasn't it Apocalypse?
No, X-Men Legends.
Legends?
No,
Legends 2.
Legends 2. Oh, I can't remember the subtitle on that one.
But Apocalypse was on the cover of it, wasn't it? Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yeah, I used to play with a couple of my fraternity brothers would play that one, and I had never played that before, and it was fantastic. But Ultimate Alliance 2 was amazing. I just like that you could pretty much beat anybody. Like we had mentioned earlier, you could be the Moon Knight. Moon Knight, I love his comic, and he's in nothing. Like Marvel hasn't even tapped into Moon Knight as a potential character for a TV show or a movie. And he is so ripe to be one, especially in the rated R world that they have now on Netflix.
I think Moon Knight would probably work well in a Netflix series. I could only imagine.
Well, he's kind of like a psychotic version of Batman. I mean, Batman's got his own issues, but Moon Knight honestly thinks he's a god. So there's a serious problem with that.
What was that? What was that game you got me? You got me for my birthday. I think it was like when we were still living together. Oh man, Punisher Punisher's good R-rated games, man.
Punisher was the one for Xbox.
The one for Xbox
Yep.
and PlayStation 2 was really cool. I mean, that was a really good R-rated game. Because I'm trying to think of because you were talking about Darkness as like a shooter and everything, and I feel like a lot of the best shooters kind of lead in. There's been a few M-rated games. The Wolverine Origins one, movie tie-in.
Yeah, you liked that one. I thought it was garbage when I played it. Maybe I had a bad taste with the movie.
I thought it was fun. Personally, I enjoyed the fact that they utilized the Unreal Engine, and there's a lot of good things about that. Actually, you know what? The other good Wolverine game was, did you ever play X2 for the movie?
I didn't. I guess, from a young age, I learned pretty quick that you just don't play any adaptations that comic books to movies to video games never worked out in that order. You always avoided it. And I can't think of a single good adaptation that I enjoyed.
I thought X2 was good, man, because Mark Hamill did the voice of Wolverine, which was dope. You got to, dude, he was great, man. Luke Skywalker did the voice of Wolverine. I did not know that.
That's funny.
It is dope. Trying to think though, there's been some bad ones though, man.
How about that Iron Man? Did you ever play Iron Man on Wii?
I played it on
the Wiimote, trying to maneuver around. This is one of the worst games I think I've ever seen. It reminded me of Superman 64.
I played it on 360, and it's like, look, you have flying, shooting, and fighting. Just break up the game into 3 portions. But I mean, that could have been a really good open world game, but
they should have just had it like Ace Fighter, just made it a flying game. Don't even go to the ground. Just keep it in the air the whole time.
Underrated, absolutely underrated superhero game, the Captain America game.
Which one?
Like PS3 tied in with the movie.
Really?
I borrowed that from someone. Borrowed that from a friend. Freaking loved it. It's so basically good.
Well, and it's crazy is even another one that made a resurgence. So Activision released Deadpool, the video game. Nobody played it. It was such like a small thing. And then Deadpool, the movie came out. And, Deadpool just exploded everywhere. They relisted Deadpool on both digital platforms, and they also expanded onto the PlayStation 4 with a remaster. And they were selling those things like crazy. And it's crazy because I actually was like, I wanted to play it. So I played it before it got redone because I saw it at Family Video. And I had never laughed so hard playing a video game, except for maybe South Park. But it was funny. It had all the ripe Cable jokes. I mean, Cable's that's a huge part of what Deadpool is from the comic books. So it was kind of nice seeing those jokes in there, and just he broke the fourth wall constantly.
I want to see. I want to see a Bishop game. I love Bishop. I would love to see. Yeah, hell yeah, man, dude. Days of Future Past with the time traveling and everything. The animated Fox cartoon series that they did. That 2-part segment. Yep. That is probably my favorite comic book animation type thing. I would love to see that done as a game because Bishop is such a badass dude.
I don't know, there just was never a lot of depth from him from what I've read, and so I just never gave him a whole lot of thought.
He absorbs powers and reshoots it at people. Come on, dude. That is prime for superhero.
Who's his villain?
Sentinels.
Exactly.
Time.
What I love about comic books is the villains of comic books, and that's why I'm gravitated so closely to both Spider-Man and Batman, because they both have such a large pool of villains, and that's why I'm really excited for the new Spider-Man game.
I'm not, man. I agree. The villains, I guess because Batman has some of the best villains for DC and Spider-Man has the best villains for Marvel, that makes sense why they kind of have the best games. Why are you excited for the new freaking Spider-Man game though?
Well, it's made by Insomniac, who has just been knocking it out lately.
Okay, good. Just because you're made by a good studio doesn't mean you're going to succeed, though.
True. And, EA has proved that countless times for us that you can hand them everything, including the most important franchise in history. And
Star Wars.
And they still can botch it, which is fine. But Insomniac, I guess they've proven themselves in the more linear style games. And I just feel like with Spider-Man being such a big part of Sony, they're going to put a lot of money into it. They have Dan Slott, the comic book writer right now. He wrote the script for the game. So you have the source material writer, You have a good studio behind it. You have Sony pumping money into it because it's an exclusive PS4 game. You know, it's going to be kind of their 2018 headline. And also, from what
that comes out this year, doesn't it?
yeah, and then from what they've shown, I love Uncharted. If they make Spider-Man the Uncharted game, I am totally
But
cool
here's
with
the
it.
thing. Okay, that'd be fine. But they're selling it as a open world game, and from what I've seen, it's all like micro based scenarios within chunks of the city. If it's a scenario game, fine. But they're pitching it as an open world game, and the previous Spider-Man games that were open world were phenomenal. I don't think it's going to be an open world game. It's not going to be as good. Everything that they've shown me so far, the only thing that I've seen is like pre-rendered cutscenes, and it's like you don't actually see any mistakes in gameplay. You know what I mean? It's all
They showed one small portion where he fought like some like basic criminals.
yeah,
and
up on the rooftop and everything. But the problem is like you don't actually see like someone lurching forward. You know what I mean? Like there's a difference when you watch something and you go, that was pre-rendered by a computer and calculated.
and also scripted. Some
And
of them, I
horribly
have a
scripted.
feeling the scripting will definitely play a piece in that, because if the fighting ends up being like Arkham, that's a lot of really good potential for Spider-Man.
Oh, that's fine.
Because that's what they need, is where you kind of unlock the abilities that kind of help Spider-Man grow in combat. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, but if he has like only like two or three basic abilities, it's going to be kind of lame.
I'm fine, but like that's why I like the open world ones, because it was when you were down on the street fighting, you could go and beat someone up and then tie them to a lamppost. And
that's
then
gonna
while
be
they're tied to lampposts, I could still beat the crap out of them.
I could not imagine a Spider-Man game where you don't get to tie someone to a light post now.
I'm saying though, like it looks overly cinematic, which don't get me wrong, the Uncharted series looks great, plays great, has a lot of that cinematic where you're climbing up stuff, but it's a linear thing, you know?
Yep.
You kind of have, here's a pathway, operate within this world, and then you can go separate ways. It's not like like Skyrim where you're like, hey, see that giant mountain in the background? I'm going to head up there.
Yeah, and I mean, you're right. I think maybe the messaging isn't clear enough, but they also haven't dropped a release date yet. So I'm thinking that because E3 obviously coming around again, and Spider-Man will be making kind of its third appearance at E3, because the first one was just Spider-Man flying across the screen, so I don't really count it. And then last year, Spider-Man demo. So I'm thinking this year they're going to drop Spider-Man gameplay, like actual, because that was the biggest complaint about E3 this past year, is there wasn't enough gameplay of games. There are a lot of trailers and whatnot, which is fine. But I think now we're towards the end of all these games that Sony's been prepping us for the PlayStation 4. A lot of them are coming to fruition, and Spider-Man's going to be their big fall game, especially following the Avengers movie that releases in May. So I mean, it's going to be Spider-Man's in that movie as Iron Spider, so it's gonna be holding it up pretty high as it is, and I think they're going to capitalize on all that marketing and all those toys that are out there. It'll be a perfect time to drop a Spider-Man game.
Oh, right now, as far as I'm concerned, oh, really? You gotta bump the thing?
It was in my face.
You apologize to Brian right now.
Sorry, Brian.
There you go. Sound guy's gonna kill you. No, as far as like Marvel stuff goes, was it Marvel just got bought, or was it Disney owns Marvel? Disney full blown owns like X-Men because they bought all the Fox stuff, but Sony still gets to kind of do its own independent thing. Here's the thing. I don't see Disney doing anything decent with games for a while because they've had a little bit of a slump with games for a bit. And what is it?
A little bit?
Well, what was it too? Marvel vs. Capcom 4?
And Marvel vs.
Infinite
Capcom
or
4
whatever,
botched horribly because of lack of X-Men characters.
But that was because everything was all tied up weird
Yep.
in like litigation.
Yeah, legal rights and licensing was all
And
messy
here's
for
the thing.
Capcom.
Marvel vs. Capcom 3 was okay.
Amazing.
I still prefer the second one. I'll play the third one a lot. But
2 words. Ghost Rider.
okay.
Amazing.
Phoenix Wright. Dude, come on, the lawyer's the best guy in the game. But I don't know. I think that we have a lot of there's a lot of good stuff that's hopefully with what Sony's doing with the
Spider-Man
game. Hopefully what happens with that is going to be something good. I want the best for that. I'm super skeptical, but that is like my only thing on the Marvel end of games that I foresee being good that's coming out.
This might actually be some news to you, but Disney has actually reached out to Crystal Dynamics
Oh, really?
the creators of Tomb Raider, and they're currently working.
And Gex.
Yes. But no, they're currently working on a secret Avengers project.
Okay.
So there's most likely going to be an Avengers game released by Crystal Dynamics within the next year or two.
Well, there was a lot of like weird Avengers, like I think they tried to do like an Avengers Move thing with the or what is it, what was the Xbox Connect thing?
Yeah, and then they did Disney Infinity. They were a big part of that. But I feel like they haven't really found their groove because they haven't figured out what kind of games they want to be part of. Like the beat 'em ups were easy because, you know, everyone was a beat 'em up at the time. But I feel like DC found their path through Batman.
Oh, absolutely.
And if Spider-Man lands, it's really going to show them that they really need to expand on their licenses to other big developers because I think they can do a lot with a few of the other characters. I never want to see an Iron Man game. Hulk, I saw his game. It was fun, but I don't think I even want another Hulk game.
I want an Iron Man game, but I want a good Iron Man game. I want open world Iron Man game. I want to be able to fly around New York. I want to go land at Stark Tower. I want to upgrade my suit there.
Congratulations.
I want to defend New York.
You just completely defined Lego Marvel.
I know. Well, no, that was a great game, man.
And, you know, Deadpool eventually did well. So I think there's a couple other licenses. Honestly, the one that I would like to see the most is actually X-Men. Like a good X-Men game with a strong story about the discrimination that the X-Men face because it's something that's not really talked about in a lot of the TV shows. Like they have like the shows The Legion and Gifted and The Runaways, and they all kind of follow this like mutant stuff. But what they're not really doing is getting back to the core of what X-Men were about.
The Holocaust.
Yeah, they definitely touched that in one of the movies or two of the movies.
That's the whole point, man. Like there's a bunch of subtext there, and that's I think what makes Marvel's storytelling better than DC's. I know we're gonna get into a fight here, aren't we?
It's all good. That X-Men strong suit was its social problems were real social problems, and that was an advantage for them. And they're not utilizing it.
Hold on, the social problems of real world problems, and then the fact that every hero has a flaw that's relatable. Whether it's Tony Hawk and his alcoholism. Come on, guys, we've all been there.
Tony Hawk.
Sorry, we're talking about Tony Hawk, and I was thinking
Tony Hawk must get drunk frequently.
Secretly, what you don't know is Tony Hawk right here. Breaking news, everyone. Tony Hawk's an alcoholic on a skateboard.
Some sweet 900s where he throws up at the end of it.
Well, didn't they have BAM where you could puke while grinding in Underground 2? We got to do a Tony Hawk episode, man.
We got
to do a Tony Hawk episode. Tony Stark has his alcoholism. Bruce Banner, Hulk, controlling rage. The ever-changing body of an adolescent, Spider-Man.
Yeah, and that is kind of their trademark, is having those relatable things versus DC, which is more classic superhero. They all have Superman, super everything. He can be hurt. And it's fine that those are the differences, but the fact that Marvel can capitalize in the movies, but they cannot do it in video games makes no sense because I don't think they're putting the effort forward because Disney, frankly, I don't think they care about video games. They've completely torched all their own companies that they've had for developers. The Split Second developer's gone.
Split Second was a great Disney game.
The Disney Infinity team is gone. Every one of their teams makes a game and just fades away. And I feel like it's a Disney problem now, more so than because before Marvel just licensed their stuff out to whoever would buy it.
See, my question is this, because Disney teamed up with Capcom for the Aladdin game on Genesis. I'm wondering if they still have ties, so hopefully we can actually get like a Marvel vs. Capcom with X-Men people back in it,
And I honestly, with how everything's gone with Disney buying up everyone, this is a really great opportunity where Disney could release their own fighting game. They could have whoever develop it, but they could use all of their own characters and make an excellent game. And they're perfectly right for it. I mean, Marvel, they could just make a Marvel fighting game. And right now, with how many different characters they have now wrangled back together, they can make a really great game. And it's really sad to see that DC is just killing it with Injustice. Meanwhile, what do we have? Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite? It had like 12 Marvel characters in it. and almost none of them were X-Men.
Yeah.
So I don't know. They're definitely a casualty of business arrangements that have been going on. But seeing Spider-Man coming out soon gives me a lot of hope for Marvel. And I haven't heard nothing from Rocksteady in a long time. So secretly, I'm hoping that I want them to make a Justice League game. I want up to 4-player couch co-op Justice League by Rocksteady. And I think that would just be amazing.
Done in the Batman Arkham style.
I think about it, 3D beat 'em up with Arkham combat. I don't, it's ambitious, but if there would ever be a Justice League game that
I want a Cyborg game. I think that would be great.
We're a little Justice League wasn't enough to make him cool enough.
Dude,
if anything, Teen Titans Go is more likely to be a launch pad for him.
Okay, I thought he was awesome. Are you kidding? Give me a Cyborg RPG. That would be dope. I would get behind that, man. That would be sweet.
How about a Black Panther one? Black Panther right now is huge. Why not make a video game with him?
Yeah.
I mean, there's possibilities all over Marvel, and they're just not capitalizing on it.
Yeah, that is kind of weird that they wouldn't do like a Black Panther game. I don't know of anything that's even in the works or lined up.
But I mean, we mentioned a lot of really great games, but I'd actually be curious to see what other people think as far as games that we haven't mentioned. Because I was looking at Wikipedia, there is a ton of comic book video games I didn't even think of. Like we were just mentioning Spawn Armageddon.
I completely forgot about that. The Spawn on PlayStation was garbage. The Spawn on Dreamcast was surprisingly good. No one ever talks about that one.
But you have like all these really like deep cut superhero games that come out. You have all these like super terrible adaptations from movies. Like we mentioned the Hulk one. I'm curious if anyone out there has played a game that everyone hates but you love. Like Bruce may hate Shaq Fu, but as a kid, I definitely got that in the discount bin and I played the hell out of it. And I loved being the Mummy. He was awesome.
That was a terrible game. Oh, man. No. I think that there's a lot of good potential now that like stuff is kind of consolidated under one roof. I'll agree with you on that. But I really think that it's going to be how they piece it out to the different developers. And that's going to be what makes it good. So hopefully Capcom can get their hands and do another Marvel vs. Capcom that's, legit and just. And honestly, yeah, I don't know what the hell Rocksteady's up to, and that concerns me.
It doesn't concern me. That excites me.
Really?
Oh, yeah. When a developer like them are silent, it's not like they released a terrible game and then disappeared. They nailed it with like one of the best superhero games ever and disappeared, which means that they're cooking something awesome. Yeah. So until next time, man.
Yeah, man. I guess that's the show for today. So have a good one.
Thank you for listening to the Couch Trolls podcast. If you like this episode, you can find more on Facebook by searching Couch Trolls or on Twitter at Couch_Trolls. I'm your announcer, Canada Sanchez, with Brian doing the sound. Thanks for listening.